All right, welcome back, guys. For the second topic, I'll just have to quickly change the... basically, I always want to have the current topic displayed in orange in the top right corner. So let me just quickly change that back here. And yeah, I hope you liked the introduction. Now we're going to have the first proper topic after the introduction. Travel after Corona. So I think that's a pretty big deal for a lot of people that like to travel, including myself. And I know people that were stranded in various places. And yeah, just talking about Corona a little bit in this situation and how it affects traveling, how the outcome looks for the future. Feel free to let me know what you think from your own personal experience. Maybe you've been stuck somewhere. I know my sister, for instance, she was stuck in the Maldives. They struggled hard to get back to Germany again. I wasn't stuck anywhere. I was supposed to go to Southeast Asia for a wedding of my friend. Sadly, I couldn't go to that wedding. My airline canceled the flights. Until now, they haven't paid back the money yet. It was so funny. In the beginning, they said, oh, it's going to take 4 weeks. And yeah, like the time passes and then you get more and more emails, and then it changed into 18 weeks. Was it weeks or months? I think weeks. So let's hope it's not gonna be postponed again. You have a honeymoon. Your own or from a friend? Yeah, Mauritius. Oh god, that must be such a nice place as well. Haven't been there yet myself. But yeah, I was supposed to be in Southeast Asia. That didn't work, and then I quit my job actually to have my last day in July. And I plan to go to Central Asia and to Mongolia and also to the like Japan area and some other stuff. But all of that I kind of cleared away now because the borders are not yet open. The main country I wanted to see was Kyrgyzstan, so the border is still closed there. So I decided to postpone my trip for another 3 months into October, mid or end October right now. And hopefully then I will be able to go to Nepal. But Hi, no mercy. Thanks, man. The credit card offer, yeah, it's still free of charge, I think. Yeah. I'm still using the same card. I still don't have to pay, but you might want to check if it's still the same conditions for new people signing up for the credit card. It's your own honeymoon, man. Congratulations. Yeah, so talking about Corona, I would say let me just start off with like kind of a few stats. Oh, so sorry for that. As you know, probably everyone knows that website now, right? It shows us how many people died. Oh, it actually dropped to 9%. Yesterday it was still 10%. And the complicated thing about Corona is that it's not the same everywhere. There are waves. Countries are in different stages. There might be at the end, like Germany right now, we barely have any more cases coming in compared to the amount of people that live here. But there are other areas like Brazil or India where it's kind of still pretty bad. And it will be the same. If you scroll down, you see Pakistan, 5,000 new corona cases, Bangladesh, 3,000. So it's kind of like a constant shift. So some countries that are very low on the list, they might not had an outbreak yet, but it could still come. And then they could quickly rise up these ranks, basically. So when you think about traveling in Corona times, it's obviously not going to be the same as it was before. So that's one thing we all know for sure. And yeah, I just wanted to use this first topic to talk about how it would look like when we travel after Corona. So for that, I already made up some thoughts, or prepared some thoughts basically, and I have like a bunch of stuff. I will also write about this afterwards. So I will put this in writing as well and then upload it together with the YouTube video that I'm going to cut for this. And I encourage you to give me your feedback as well. So I have like a bunch of stuff that I would go through. And I'm curious to see what you guys think about it. So the first one that I wrote down is changing of travel habits, right? So the way we travel will be completely different. That's for sure. And we had like, it's unbelievable how much we were traveling actually. I pulled up some stats and it was 1.5 billion arrivals in 2019. So if you just think about that number, that's completely crazy. And also the economic connection to the whole travel industry. 1 out of 10 jobs is connected to traveling in one way or the other. So it might be an airline, maybe you have a restaurant, maybe you're a tour operator in Nepal who needs the tourists to come in order to kind of survive and get your family over the next winter or something like that. So there's so many parts that kind of work together, and they are related to traveling. So the travel industry is huge, and many people rely on the income they make from tourists. And for them, it's a really tough time now. I can consider myself super lucky to have a job still that I can do remotely from anywhere. So home office for me personally is really no problem at all. But what will affect me is basically the way traveling looks. So the travel habits, they will change. And I think the two things that I noticed recently is that many people told me they are like really scared. Like right now, I wouldn't really travel myself. I just hope that by October, or eventually I have to move that again to next year then, if October won't work. But right now, it really doesn't feel like something like you should do. You should definitely not do it right now. You should stay at home still until we get to a point where, like, ideally the whole world is flattening the curve, but that's still not the case. So that's why all the countries lock down their borders, which is a very drastic move, which I don't think happened at all before, actually. So to see like nearly all the countries in the world shutting down all their borders, that's quite intense. I actually have a little bit of a picture here. You know what? Let me put that up on the screen here. All right, I'll leave it on the small one. So basically all the red stuff, those are countries that are completely closed. And all the orange ones, those are partially closed. And just well, let me put it on the bigger screen. Ah, damn it. Sorry, like this. I'm still not familiar with my hotkeys perfectly. But as you can see, there's a lot of countries that are closed right now. And this is very extreme. And they didn't do it for fun, you know, like the economy, it suffers, and they only did it to save lives, basically. So right now it's just not the time to travel. But even let's say we get to a situation a few months from now where we kind of defeated the virus, right? And there's maybe only 1 or 2 cases somewhere in very like isolated places or so, and people generally start traveling again. I heard from a lot of people they are just very scared of a new outbreak. So that's the first fear that I hear the most. They're scared that if they travel and they are somewhere remote, they can't get back home. In this pandemic, in Germany at least, the German government, they returned 250,000 people from all over the world back to Germany. And I actually read that they're going to charge them for them as well. I just read about that yesterday in the newspaper. So they will get bills, invoices now, and they have to pay for that, actually. I was not aware of that. I thought they just kind of saved them, but I didn't know that they're going to charge them for them as well afterwards. But yeah, that's what will happen. And so basically, people will be scared that they get stuck if a new outbreak happens, because even if we fight off that virus now, there could be another outbreak. There could be a complete different virus. Maybe also a virus that will affect younger people more compared to COVID-19, which is affecting old people with pre-existing conditions, for instance. So you never know what's going to happen. But this is kind of like a wake-up call to show people that, yeah, traveling, it's easy, right? You can hop on a plane and you can go wherever you want. But like now people are actually starting to think what can happen to me when I'm not at home, because it also depends on the person. For me personally, I think if I would be stranded somewhere, I've been to so many situations because I was a full-time traveler. So I have the experience of being stranded somewhere, and especially like with me and hitchhiking and stuff. And I generally don't even know when I will arrive where and what happens on the way. So for me, it would not be as much of a big deal as for someone who's maybe used to kind of all-inclusive deals. They just pay a lot of money to one agency and they take care of everything, right? So well, those people, it's quite a scary thought of being stuck somewhere. So I think this is one of the things that will change, like the travel habits as a result of that fear. I think we're going to see more people choosing to travel closer to their home place. So let's say in Germany, you would maybe explore Germany. There's so many cool spots in Germany as well. And many people that don't really explore the area around them. I think that's one of the things that I noticed so many times with so many people, and including myself. I haven't explored Germany enough yet myself, because you're like, okay, that's really close to where I'm anyway, so why travel here? I want to travel somewhere far away. But this will be one of the habits that will change. People, instead of going too far away, they will stay closer to home. Exceptions will be people like me. I still want to go to far away places. So this is kind of one thing that will certainly change. Then you were in Rügen first time. Yeah, see, I was actually just thinking about that, because I have some friends in London and they want to go out, like they want to just get out, after 4 months of self-isolation. And now with the borders opening today is the day, June 15th, where the EU countries are opening the borders. So people from London can take their car, drive through the tunnel, get to Belgium, come to Germany, and then do a road trip here, basically. So actually, I would like to do something like that. What does travel stream mean? It means it's a stream talking about traveling, because I used to do gaming streams. And I want to do it here because I want to have an interactive travel show. And with Twitch, I can interact with the people, like right now. Dextro, Dextro, I just said that. Julix89, how do you finance the trips? No answer if it's too private. That's actually one of the questions I get asked the most. And that question, I actually have a really nice a post about that as well. Because I said it earlier, I kind of track every single penny that I spent on my trip. Wait, let me make sure not to mix this up again. Yes, this time it worked. So I will send you a link. You can check that out later. But this is listing exactly how much I spent. It's not really updated, to be honest. So this is kind of like until April 2018. At some point, it takes a bit of time to crunch all the data and create like a nice, I think it's called infographic, these graphics, and put it up together in a nice format. But I will certainly do an update on that. And I have like statistics on which region costs more. Actually, I've done a bunch of updates here already. And I compare the countries based on the average money I spent per day. So check out that post. I think that will answer your questions, like not that post specifically, but how to travel cheap. Actually, wait, I sent you the wrong link. This is the one that I wanted to give you. That's listing like 10 tips or so on how to travel cheaply. So go check that out. And I don't want to go too much into detail into that because we're talking about Corona right now, but that topic will certainly, like travel costs and how to keep them short, that will certainly be one of the big topics coming up. So I will go into all the detail there and give you all the tips you can potentially need. But back to Corona. So I was saying we will change our travel habits. People might become a bit more scared. They will go to places that are closer to their home. And the second point that I actually wrote down is actually related to your point, cost of traveling. So yeah, no, it was a really low budget, but that's because of hitchhiking and couchsurfing, and it's like you can save a lot of money if you want. But yeah, cost of traveling. So that's actually a really interesting one that I wanted to discuss with you as well, to see what you think, because there are two ways, right? It could either become more expensive or less expensive, or it could stay the same. Okay, there's three options. I read a lot about stuff that it will be more expensive. Airplanes or airlines, they will probably not use the middle seat, so that means they can't run with the same capacity, and that means they will get less money, so they have to take more money per passenger. But at the same time, what if the planes, because of the first point that I brought up, people are being scared and stuff, what if the planes are only 10% full? Will they still charge more, or will they reduce the price to get their planes full? So It really depends. And also, like, there's different factors when it comes to air travel. Like the oil price, for instance, went down quite a lot. So the airlines will spend less money on oil right now. So you never really know. It's all about demand in the end. And I think right now it's too early to tell because we don't really have any long distance flights going on right now. It's only like shorter distances that are opening up now. But the cost of traveling, it's an interesting point. There was actually kind of a news, like, you know, when you scroll on your phone, sometimes you have these news feeds, and it's often clickbait. And there was one topic that was brought up a lot from Japan. So Japan apparently said they're going to cover for half of the cost for all the tourists coming. They would pay half of the flight, half of the hotel, half of whatever you consume. And I was already thinking, that sounds too good to be true, to be honest. And now yesterday I just Googled it to see if there's any updates. And like, if you Google that now, it will basically tell you what happened. So they meant this internally for Japanese citizens for travel in Japan. So they want to boost their internal travel industry, but it's not applying for us, sadly, because many people got excited and they're like, oh, cool, Japan for half price? That sounds awesome. But I can imagine that a lot of tour companies, airlines, they probably have to, first of all, they have to change their hygiene standards. That's the third topic I will talk about after this one. But they will also have to find another way to, let's say, motivate people to travel, especially now when they're scared, right? So I think that offering deals might be one of the ways. So I'm not entirely sure that everything will get more expensive now. I think there's a pretty good chance that it also even might get cheaper. It's like a 50-50, and especially for stuff like visas, like countries like Nepal, for instance, they really, that's the country I want to go to in October to see Everest and do like a lot of hikes there for 3 months or so. And they're really, like, if you think about the tea house treks, and like, it costs like, the permit to climb Everest is $10,000 right now, and then like to get on Everest with a tour, you pay like 40 to 50,000, 60 to 70,000 if you want like a kind of a luxury style, where you don't really have to do much anymore. I'm not a big fan of these tours, by the way. I prefer to do stuff on my own. But anyway, so Nepal, as an example, they really need tourism as a sort of income. And their visa is not the cheapest in the world. Also, if you stay for more than 30 days, you have to extend it, and then it's going to become more expensive. So I could imagine that countries will maybe reduce the fee of getting in there for tourists, or even completely like change to a free visa, stuff like that. So yeah, we will have to wait and see, I guess, what happens on that front. All right. Yeah, the other topic, hygiene. So that's, I think, something that will come for sure, and it's already happening, like new standards in hygiene. So I read that airplanes, they will introduce new kind of ventilation systems, and the air there will be like 100% clean. So much better than what it is happening right now, because especially airplanes, it's a tight space. So if somebody has corona, it spreads so easily. But what will happen is that people will get screened. They will take like temperature tests. Probably you might not be allowed on a flight if you show symptoms of having a cold, even it could be the same symptoms as corona. So for that, we really need a very fast corona test. Because it would be a shame. Let's say you have like a harmless cold and you need to go on a urgent business flight, and they won't let you on the flight because you cough. So with these new corona tests, at some point, right now they're not quite there yet, but they're working on it, right? So you have a test that's very accurate and that's very fast. So basically at the gate, you can get a test, and then you can make sure that there's nobody on the plane who has corona. So that test alone would solve so many problems. Because right now we have the uncertainty of not knowing who's got it. It's like a 10 days incubation time. I hope that's the right word. Apologies if I sometimes use the wrong words, since English is not my first language. But you could have like, you could basically show no symptoms at all and still have corona, and then pass it on to someone who's, let's say, elderly and they have a weak immune system and they could die from it, and you didn't even know that you had corona. So that's what it makes that makes the virus so dangerous. So having these tests, I think that's like the number one priority. And at some point in the next year, we will also have a vaccine, you know. But as I mentioned before, there could always be a new virus coming up or a new variation, and then the whole thing can start from the beginning. But at least now we're gonna have kind of a wake-up call where especially airlines will work on better hygiene rules. So you will have to clean your hands. I think that's one of the most important parts. Wash your hands all the time. Like, to be honest, before the corona, I didn't really think about it too much, you know, and also like try not to touch your face all the time. That's something that I really had to learn because you do it without even thinking about it, right? So new standards on hygiene, and especially that corona test. I think that's something that once we have that, I think everything will be much, much better than it is now. Incubation time was right. Thank you very much, Flynn, and nice to see you on the stream again. So Flynn is one of my Warcraft viewers, and yeah, he's also. Was it New Zealand? It was New Zealand, right? Are you Kiwi or Australian? Hey, Taker, I've never been out of a country, but it's, by the way, Taker, that's my gaming name, so most people on the stream will probably know me from my gaming time. So for the people on YouTube right now, whenever you hear Taker, that's basically me. It's a long story. So, hey, Taker, I've been out of the country, but it's my dream to travel abroad. I've never been out of my country, but it's my dream to travel abroad. Thanks for doing these travel shows. Oh, you're very welcome. Where are you from? Yeah, and it's like, you know, I started traveling, well, you know, I had my first trips actually gaming related. I was going to South Korea and China. That were my first two countries after Germany. But that was for gaming. I played tournaments there, so it was not really traveling per se. New Zealand, I knew. But I started really late with my real traveling. Like, if you look at the list here, wait, that's the wrong side. On this side, that list is a pretty long list, but it only really started. Let me double check, so I'm not saying anything false. So if I scroll down all the way, so as I said, first country, South Korea. When I was, what year was it? 2003. And then 2004 I went to China. 2008, that was the first trip. It's a trip that I won through gaming. I won a gaming tournament and I wanted to give this to my parents, but they didn't want to go, so I had to go. And then I had a few other stuff. Then I used couchsurfing for the first time in 2009, and yeah, then I didn't really properly start traveling yet. It was like on and off, and then at some point I just started traveling more. So let's say let's say 2011, I kind of slowly started off until 2012, 2013. So that's not too long ago. And in that time, I've seen 106 countries. So what I want to say with that is never too late to start traveling, man. It's not the best time right now, obviously, but yeah, don't be discouraged. New Zealand, yeah. Shalom. Nice. Okay, so back to the topic. Travel after Corona. So we talked about changing of travel habits, cost of traveling, new standards and hygiene. And by the way, I wrote like a sketch of this already, so it's nice for me to not lose track. And I will upload this afterwards as a nice text complete with the cut video from this topic now. The next one would be border situations. So border situations, of course, you have to keep in mind that, let's say you find a nice flight to country X, and maybe it's even cheap, who knows? You still have to check if you can get to that country, right? If you can enter it. Because airlines still offer flights right now, because I constantly check all the flights, all the different flight situations that could get me to Nepal. So I want to fly into New Delhi in India, which I might not be able to do so because Corona's quite bad there. So you have to see how it develops. Still, in 3 months, they could also be like at the situation where we are now. and I wouldn't be too afraid. I would just fly in there, see a few things like the Taj Mahal and stuff, and then go into Nepal, which is nearby. But you basically always have to check for border situations, right? So what I was doing now, I'm checking the Nepali immigration office. So there, for instance, I can show you how that looks. That looks like that. It's pretty small, but basically it's just saying, hey, you can't read, it's bad quality screenshot. But every month they provide an update saying, okay, our border will be closed until that day. So right now, the lockdown period of Nepal will be until June 14th. So I would imagine that they should get a new update out soon, because that was yesterday. So you constantly have to look at these kind of official resources. Another website that I want to show to you guys that's really, really helpful for me right now. Okay, now I'm pressing the right buttons. I will post in a link in the chat as well. It's from Wanderlust. Wanderlust, a very nice German word, by the way. COUK. So this is basically giving you a list of every single country and their current status. So if you want to go to Guatemala, very nice. All international and domestic flights are banned. You already know, okay. And they update this every day. And the coolest thing about that site is that in the very bottom, top, you have the what's changed since yesterday section. So I can see, without having to go through all the news websites, I can see what happened since yesterday. And I know already, okay, Cuba plans to reopen to international tourists by the end of July. Cool. If you want to go to Cuba, you might be able to go in August. So this is just a plan, but at least you know about the plan. But there's always also facts, like Greece extends its ban on British travelers until, so that's a fact, you know. So this website I found very, very useful to kind of keep up to date with the current situation of all the countries in the world. Let me actually, not Pakistan, I want to go to Nepal. The government of Nepal announced its intention to deny entry to Nepal to certain foreign nationals, including British Now, so this website is a British website, so they have a focus on Brits, basically. But yeah, it might not be completely 100% up to date because if I look at the Nepal official website, they actually have a new update until June 14th, as I just said. But I think it's giving you a great overall idea. So that's certainly a website that you should check out. Yeah, so border status, that's a big topic for the post-corona travel situation. You always have to monitor the situation. Let's see. Yeah, the next one, longer waiting times. That's something I wrote down. So I think that's something we have to get used to, all of us, when we want to travel again. You will have longer times to do screenings, to do health checks. Hopefully, hopefully do like a quick corona test. So all of that will take time. So if you've been annoyed by a long queue in the immigration in the past, this might get even worse in the future, because if we all have to get tested separately, one by one, just plan a few extra hours whenever you cross the border, I would say. And also, if you're in the country and you go to, let's say, a tourist attraction, for example, the Eiffel Tower, I'm sure that's already happening right now, I would say, because I think they reopened that recently, if I remember. You would have to get tested somehow, at least on temperature, to see if you show any symptoms, because we don't have that super quick corona test just yet. I think it still takes like a day or two to get the result from the current test. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I don't think we have an instant test yet. So that's something that I'm sure we will have at some point, and I'm 100% sure this will be implemented everywhere once we have it. So yeah, longer waiting times, it's another point. And the last one, actually, because I don't want to have these topics for too long, I'm trying to stay between, let's say, 20 and 40 minutes per episode for YouTube. So I don't want to go into too much detail and keep the video relatively short. But we can certainly have like another Q&A at the end of the stream. And the last point for this topic now is interacting with the locals. And that's something that I'm especially interested in, because my way of traveling really like, I have two main objectives when I travel. One is to see amazing landscapes, sleep with my tent in the mountains, have a nice sunrise, be alone in the mountains, or even better with some nice company, of course, but be away from the busy city life, you know? And the other thing is interacting with the locals. So that's why I couch surf, that's why I hitchhike. On average, I think I met around 50, I'd say between 30 and 50 people every day, 30 or 50 people that I haven't seen before. Because if I hitchhike from one place to the other, it might take 6 or 7 cars to get there, but I will probably talk to like 20 or 30 drivers. Some of them will just tell me, I'm going this way, which is maybe the way I don't want to go, you know. But basically you interact with a lot of people, and also when you couch surf, they bring over their friends, you go on a road trip. I can't even count the amount of times where I had so many amazing couch surfers, and I arrive and then they come up with stuff that I would have never thought would happen. Like they're like, oh, Chris, if you want, we can go to the farm and shoot some shotgun on the farm, or we can go and ride some horses in Chile. So there's so many crazy couch surfing stories, and that's basically because I stay with the locals, and I don't really stay in hotels, by the way, because that's not my kind of traveling. I'm more interested in what's happening in the country, because if you stay in the hotels only, I can totally understand people doing it if they just want to relax. You know, it's a holiday. I wouldn't call it traveling. I would call it a holiday. You have 3-4 weeks, or 2 or 3 weeks, more realistically. I don't think people take 4 weeks off. Where you just want to go somewhere, be treated nicely, have a nice beach or something, you know? And that's a complete different scenario. But when I'm traveling for 3-4 years every day, I'm not really interested in relaxing. I'm interested in exploring. I want to explore the world. I want to meet people, especially if you go to places that don't really know a lot of tourists. They have so many different other perspectives on life itself. It really broadens your horizon. And I think that's the main advantage you get out of traveling. So that's the interacting with the locals is what I'm a bit worried about after Corona. If we don't controlled in a way that everyone completely relaxes again and says, everyone is immune now, you know, we have a vaccine or something like that. But let's say in the near future, end of the year maybe, and it's kind of still fresh, you know, I'm just curious how the people will react. I read stories in Thailand that the tourists, the backpackers in Thailand, they are not treated well by the locals. They are kind of kept in a hotel, they can't leave. But that was during the outbreak, you know, that was during the panic phase, I would call it. In Germany, we're not in the panic phase anymore. We open the schools, we open restaurants. Yesterday I went climbing again for the first time. That felt so good. I can't wait to go climbing more often again. So once you get to that point where you flatten the curve, I heard that term so many times in the news, flattening the curve. So once you get to that point, everything becomes slowly back to normal, right? So we're on that stage now. We slowly get back to normal. It would still take months until we are back to normal, but you don't know how it will be in the country that you're going to visit. So this is going to be a big question mark for me personally. How will the locals interact with me? Will they still interact with me? Or will they try to keep distance, you know? So that's one thing I'm really curious about. And yeah, that also wraps up the topic. Travel after Corona. I hope you could learn a few things. Maybe the website that I showed to you, maybe that's something you didn't know before. Generally raise some more awareness of the hygiene stuff and like, you know, what might happen. Courageous, you missed it, don't worry. I will upload this on YouTube. And I will try my best to get it uploaded in the next couple of days. So make sure to follow my travel social media stuff. And then everything will be nicely cut as well. Yeah, and I think that's it for this topic. We're going to have one more topic, which is going to be couch surfing changes, because there's been a big change with there as well.